What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the GZ Chop Shop podcast. I'm your host, Projektitachi, joined by my good friend and co-host, Warners. And this week, we want to talk about pretty much the year in review. We're coming up on the end of the year. It's already November, and we are pretty much wrapping up all the blockbuster games that were coming out this year. And it has been a stacked year. Like, every genre had something coming out for it, especially the fighting game genre. They had a plethora of games coming out with the RP fans, the action fans, even your MMO fans. Everyone got a little bit of something this year. So I want to talk about, starting the episode, what our personal favorites for this year were and what we would like to see in the Game Awards in December. And I'll kick things off by saying I honestly would love to see Stellar Blade, Black Myth Wukong, and Metaphor going up for an award of some kind for Game of the Year. And I'd obviously, Shadow of the Erdtree as a DLC, but I don't remember if they have a category.
I know there has yet to be like a DLC category. And
Yeah.
honestly, like I'm kind of like on one hand, like I would like to see good DLCs be praised, but on the other hand, I don't know like how I'd feel about us like encouraging incomplete games. But it's kind of like, to me, that's like a tricky area. But a good game, good DLC should get praised.
Yeah. So I know like a lot of people are, they hem and haw over Stellar Blade, they hem and haw over Black Myth Wukong because they're like, oh, well, the studios, they got, so many issues, and all of a sudden everyone becomes a warrior of justice. And I look at it, I'm like, okay, are we judging the product or the team? These are awards for the game. They're awards for the finished product. And I think both of those games are phenomenal.
Is Wukong, because I know they're definitely not going to be, they're not allowed in the gaming awards. That was my understanding.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And there's a whole bunch of red tape reasons behind it. I still feel they should be allowed. It obviously was a game a lot of people enjoyed and a lot of people wanted, because single player games have been put on the back burner by a lot of studios, and then here comes Game Science and their first full-fledged game comes out as Black Myth Wukong, and it's a phenomenal game.
It's nice when you get a completed game.
Yeah, and it's a completed game. And you could not tell that it was their first game. It's so the action is fluid, the lore is enticing and immersive. The world, you get to see Journey of the West from a different viewpoint, a different telling of it, and the characters are memorable. And the artwork in those cutscenes is just beautiful. Like that took time and care and love. And I would just hate to see that game just get overshadowed over some, like, for political reasons or whatever. Like, keep that separate. This is about the game. That's why it's called the Game Awards. Like, there's no reason that the game should suffer for political rigmarole. Like, there's no reason for that. So I would love to see Black Myth Wukong come across. And right before the podcast, I was actually playing Metaphor ReFantazio. And for anyone who's an Atlas fan, if you've played the Personas, you'll feel right at home with this game. I have been in love with Metaphor. It's been scratching that JRPG itch for me, something fierce. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the music. The music is epic, in my opinion. Every single battle has epic music, and I love that. And I love the menu design, the artwork that went into it. And I get that, one of the directors said, it's really annoying doing those menus because, they're so detailed. But I'm like, look, as a gamer, I appreciate that. I love that you do it despite it being annoying, because sometimes I open the menu just to look at the menu. Like, it's just that beautiful.
Yeah, I've seen clips of the game, and I've heard nothing but praise about it. So it's on my list of games to play when I finish the other list of games I'm playing right now. Because
Yeah.
like you said, there's a lot of good games this year. It's been
There
a
was
little ridiculous.
there was because while I was wrapped up in Metaphor, you were wrapped up in Mech Warrior, clans, right?
Man, I gotta tell you, dude, like, because BattleTech is such a niche uh genre or I just like area of gaming. It's more niche than Warhammer, and Warhammer's getting all kinds of well deserved love. So that's been really great. Space Marines too is something that's actually on my wish list. I intend to play as well. But seeing Mech Warrior Clans come out, following Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries after all these years, and those two being the first Mech Warrior games besides the online Mech Warrior Online and like story driven games and stuff in like I think like 18 or 20 years or something, has been really cool. So it's been odd. And the Mech Warrior Mercenaries, I don't know how many people listening are familiar with the series, but you basically run a mercenaries company and you take contracts and you travel the entire like all these star systems in this galaxy or this section of the galaxy, and you there's combat, there's a story, and you run a mercenary business, and it's really cool. And it's pretty like, I don't want to say realistic, but like it's pretty detailed in like how you balance everything, and that's been a blast. MechWarrior 5 Plans lets you play as a certain antagonist in the series that comes in, and you get to be part of a full-on invasion into the world that usually you're playing in and for or within. So you're getting an outside perspective and seeing the world that you're used to playing in as the people who are evil, and yourself as the one who's in the right. And it's story driven, and you're not running a company, but there are some aspects of a company they keep in it. Like you kind of have to like earn certain things and build up money and so forth. But it's been really great. It's more strategy based. Like the simulation is still there of combat, but there's more strategy behind it because you're running a full like squadron of 5 versus like you and 2 other people. So that's been pretty cool. Silent Hill, I got that one. I have yet to play it, but I've heard nothing but good things, and the clips I've seen are gorgeous of the game. And then you and me recently were playing Sparking Zero. You platinumed the game.
Yep.
Which is crazy. I think I have like 15 hours in the game. And it's something I've been playing on and off like between my other games, but those are the games I've really enjoyed this year. Wukong, Shadow of the Erdtree, Clans, and Sparking Zero have been probably my top favorites right now.
I would definitely say I would be surprised if Sparking Zero doesn't win Fighter of the Year.
Yeah,
I don't see anything coming out right now that will top Sparking Zero.
well,
Not this close to the end of the year.
I saw like, some people were kind of like, oh, it's just another Budokai reskin. It's the same. Every Dragon Ball Z is kind of the same thing over and over. It, in a small regard, I can see where they're coming from, but it's kind of unfair because first of all, each game has something additional to offer besides just the basic story. But in this one, I think what really sets it apart are the what ifs. And the what ifs are insane and gives a lot of characters their dues.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've just been playing online, then I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice.
That's a massive disservice. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I think most, especially the veteran players of Budokai games, like
That's
we
all
know
they're
that
doing.
game is that. Well, yeah, but we all pretty much agree that Dragon Ball Z games, particularly Budokai franchise, should never be freaking competitive online.
No,
because it's not balanced and it's not made to be balanced. So it makes for a very unfair comp and ranking system.
I like that they didn't force rank. Like rank is an optional thing, but they knew most people would go to rank because people like bragging rights. So a lot of people, that's exclusively what they're doing. And that's totally fine. If that's what you want to do, go for it. But I do agree that a Dragon Ball game, outside Fighter Z, which was built to be competitive, a Budokai game should not be
But it
competitive.
certainly doesn't take away from the game. It's the what ifs though. Like I haven't finished all of them, but they've been a blast, and I really enjoy the combat, the button combinations and layout. I never thought I'd say this. Coming like usually when you play like an older game, sometimes you just like especially with fighters, you kind of prefer the more traditional layout, right?
Mhm.
But I actually like the modern controls on this one.
Yeah.
I feel like the last one was out in like the early 2000s?
Yeah. PS3 was the
2007
last
or 8 or something.
Budokai.
So yeah, a lot of those older games didn't have like thinking back, and then like if you actually go back and try it, like they had kind of crappy layouts compared to like what we can have now. We just didn't realize it at the time.
We didn't realize it then.
Like I playing Tomb Raider, I rebought because Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 just came out, or like the remastered, and it's awesome. Like it is so fun. I love it. But you get the option of modern controls or the original controls. I don't know if you remember.
I think you were talking about it. You tried to play the original controls.
How was 10-year-old me playing Tomb Raider with the D-pad, and you can't even run diagonally? You have to go up, back, left, or right. Oh, dude, I don't know how I did it because I tried it and I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not playing like this. Is so dumb. This would take forever.
It's funny we asked that question, but we had to back then because we didn't know there could be more. We didn't know it could be better.
Well, yeah, and like at the time, like that was the best, and you're
that
like,
was
this
the
is
best.
awesome.
It's kind of like when you look at your old games on an old TV and you're like, how did my eyes see that?
And kind of leading into something you're going to be talking about here pretty soon. I've thought about this for a while. It just crosses my mind, but more often now than before, with the way the gaming industry is now and how games are released now. There's a reason that so many gamers fall, like when we're not currently playing a game we were like really excited for, like a new game, like I've been wanting to play this. What do? We have games we play in between new releases, right? And a lot of those games are PS1, PS2, Xbox One, Xbox 360, older school PC games from 15, 20, whatever years ago, because those games, when they came out, they had decent, fun stories. It's not just nostalgia. Decent, fun stories, and the games were completed. There was nothing else to add besides a sequel, maybe. And the game was to the point, and the game had fun music. It was an enjoyable game that did not need any additional work that worked on release. And I think that's a huge reason why we're able to go back and enjoy so many games we grew up with, or so many games that 15 or so years ago we were playing, like, that we loved, even if the controls were kind of janky. Completed fun games.
No, you're absolutely right, because I find myself going back to some of my classic games. Just the other day, I was going to get myself a copy of Shadows of the Empire for Nintendo 64, just because the game was so fun, and it was one of the best Star Wars games back then.
Yeah, that's an old game right there.
That's an old game, and still, to me, I'm like, it still would be so much fun just for the cheat codes alone.
You know what we're not going to be doing? What we're not going to be doing, and what the new generation of gamers are not going to be doing in 15, 20 years? Playing today's games the same way we're playing games from 15, 20 years ago. Because live service games have a expiration date, and it ends whenever the studio doesn't feel like keeping up with the game anymore and continuing to fix it and add stuff to it. Why? Because the games aren't completed, and they're subscription based.
Yeah.
And once they pull the plug, that's it. Versus older games that were completed and story driven and fun. Maybe we have to get them digitally now, but they're still completed. I can still download them to my hard drive and enjoy it. I can still pull out my old console and use the hard copy with the crappy controls I don't like. But I
And
can still
it's
play
really
it.
sad that, there's this big push for Netflix like gaming, and like you said, it's something we're gonna get into in a minute here. But something you had said about, games were to the point and they were fun. Um, I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, Amy Hennig, one of the lead directors for the Uncharted series, she basically predicted that games like Uncharted, if they were pitched today, wouldn't fly. And she said this a few years ago. She was like, because people don't feel an 8-hour adventure is justified anymore. People want endless stories. They want endless adventures. They want more bang for their buck. So games like Uncharted don't fly. And she wasn't wrong, because look at the pushback from Spider-Man 2. People beat the game. You could beat it in a weekend. It was like 17 hours. And then people were like, that's it. And Insomniac's like, yeah, we're not doing DLC. It was a story-driven action game. You beat the story. That was the
And then,
game.
and then what does the same community do? They turn around and they get upset because we're tired of unfinished DLCs and unfinished game. Like, which one is it, dude?
So I was very, very curious, because the other topic that we're going to transition into now is live service gaming, because it's been running rampant. And you sent me an article earlier, which really made me, I said, I want to kind of dive in and do some research on this, but you sent me the article about basically Lariat Studios, one of the people from Lariat Studios calling out Ubisoft.
I think they said exactly what you were wanting to
Yeah.
put in the words.
Yeah. And
This just came out a few days ago.
And it was funny, because I'm reading the article and I'm like, this is something that we've said on the podcast and I've been saying for years. And ever since the lead of Ubisoft was like, gamers should get used to not owning their games, and then Larry turns around and goes, well, then developers should get used to not having jobs. And I'm like,
Well, you
yeah,
can't
because I'm not going to give you my money.
you can't sell a product, or you can't make a product and spend quite literally hundreds of millions of dollars, which is what a lot of these AAA games are going for now, which is insane to me. So you spend that much money for a game that's not completed, and then you put them on a subscription service, and you make all of your new games for the year, all your hundreds of new games for the year, that both indie and AAA that all games of which took different amounts of financial backing and work to put in from different studios, and make them split a monthly subscription service payment from hundreds of thousands of people, and then turn around and think that you're going to get all your money back.
So
You're not. It's not a sustainable business deal, and that's why Xbox Pass is struggling, and that's why the future for live service games in general is going to start struggling, or they're going to have to make some major changes and some kind of compromise or something. And I don't even know, like, as much. I like PlayStation's Plus. I think they have a fair system with it. It's not super expensive. But even that's going to have issues, because it's still a subscription-based service, and I still don't fully agree with it.
yeah,
For a lot of
so
the reasons I just stated.
And I will say Sony's made some questionable moves that I'm not going to get into in this episode, but they've made some questionable moves where I'm like, you've been hanging around Microsoft a little too long. They're starting to rub off on you there, Sony. But I wanted to kind of get into the live service aspect a little bit more. And we usually skirt it because it's like, oh, that's a long conversation, and we try not to piss people off. But I'm at the point, I'm like, you know what? This is a conversation that needs to be had, because the market that live service games appeal to are the very same players who are pretty much not hardcore, which is fine. I'm not saying every single gamer has to be a hardcore gamer, an avid gamer. I'm not saying that. But the market targets them because they're so passive about it. And they influence the market for everyone, which, as it's been said, a game for everyone is a game for no one. Look at Fortnite. Fortnite is appealing, but ask anyone, why do you like Fortnite? I promise you the first thing they'll say is because it's fun. Why is it fun? They won't know. They'll come up with something, but every answer is going to be different.
I feel like with these kind of games, because like I'm all right with Fortnite. I mean, it's a different world now, but I grew up playing like Halo 2 and 3 and the original Call of Duties back when it was like World Wars and like 1 and 2 and stuff like that. Back when Call of Duty was fun. And I think a lot of these games, they're just built different. They're just built different. They're not, and not in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. They're built mainly to appeal to the casual, passive game.
They're addicting for the wrong reasons. And this is an issue that's popped up. The same like the same stimulations and dopamine releases you get from gambling is the same exact stuff that releases and activates in your brain for buying skins. It's an addictive dopamine release. And it's gotten so bad that even psychologists that have come out and talked about the effects of gaming, both good and bad, that being one of the bad ones. And there's been several potential lawsuits in the past 10 or so years. None of them have actually gone through, but I'm sure a lot of people would be familiar with it, like microtransactions. Some of y'all might remember like the chess drops, like in Overwatch, for instance, being considered gambling.
It was huge on loot
and then
boxes.
Obviously buying a skin is not gambling, but it's releasing that same addictive dopamine feel that you get when you're spending money on stuff. And it makes the game addicting in the wrong way. The game's not fun for you to play because it's actually truly a great game that's fun. It's because you're addicted to playing with people you don't know and looking cool. It's on the same par of like buying clothes that you can't afford so you can fit in and look awesome to people that you don't even know. That's what Fortnite to me is. That's what Call of Duty is to me. Or modern day Call of Duty. It's spending unnecessary money on skins to look cool and being like, I have XYZ. It's not pay to play, it's pay to fit in.
Well, now with Black Ops 6, it is going to be on the rumor mill, possibly pay to play and pay to win. I don't know if you heard about the audio feature.
Unfortunately, if you want better audio in Black Ops 6, $20, and it is so gross, dude.
Now, a lot of people will justify it, and they're like, well, that $20 covers you for 5 years. Okay, why is that even an extra charge? Here's my thing.
Yeah, games $15 used to cover my Netflix account.
Right.
And then it was 16, 17, then it was 20, then it was 25 or whatever if I want to watch it on more than one TV, like whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they tell you, and no one's learning their lesson.
And I thought about it because someone was like, well, PlayStation and Xbox both released audio interfaces in their systems to amplify your audio yourself with your headphones. So some people are like, well, what am I going to buy? I don't need that. I just set up my audio. And I thought to myself, I said, you know what? On the surface, you're right. But you are assuming that Activision Blizzard, i.e. Microsoft, didn't already think that people were going to do that. So if you think your audio is not going to get limited when they see you didn't pay the $20, you're sorely mistaken. Will you hear better? Yes, but you're not going to have that game-winning audio. They're going to make sure that your audio is limited.
They took not releasing a game that's completed to a new level that I did not know existed. Like now, not only are we not releasing games that are like ready to go, that aren't buggy, that are completed. You don't have to buy the next DLC to finish the game. Like the game's done. A DLC would just be a fun add-on. Now it's, oh, do you want the stuff that should come with the game, like audio? Do you want to hear as well as you should be able to hear? Oh, $20 more.
This is why I said that, unfortunately, the casual market, which is the larger market of gamers, unintentionally influencing the direction it goes. on average, and it was a study from, I believe it was 2022, that about 75% of Xbox Game Pass players play less than 150 hours of games of their subscription in a year. So they're paying for Game Pass and they're not really getting the bang for their buck. So they're winding up paying almost over their lifetime of Game Pass the full price for games that they're not even touching. And they're okay with it, you know, because they look at it like, oh, if it's $5 for me to play hundreds of games, except they play the same game over and over and over and over and over.
Right. Which I would say is awesome if you love a game that much and you want to play it that much. Like there's games I want to play over and over. But the problem is these games that have become popular and people are wanting to play over and over and over, they're having to spend $5 every other day, $20 a week, $40 every 2 weeks because they want a new skin, because they want audio every few years, they want to whatever. Like there's always all this additional, these microtransactions and add-ons. And again, it goes back to the dopamine release, brain activity. You're addicted to the spending of the money and appealing and looking a certain way, not to the actual authenticity of the game and how good or not good it actually is. And that's the issue, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. And by gamers constantly saying, you know, hey, I'll shell out $70 for the new Call of Duty on top of $30 for the Battle Pass, on top of $20 for that perfect audio, that tells the companies, hey, you're willing to shell out that money, then this is what we're gonna, you know, we're gonna keep going. And a majority of gamers, they're playing Call of Duty, they're playing Fortnite, they're playing FIFA. And I think Microsoft, in a really big gamble, they put Black Ops 6 on day one for their Game Pass, which I would also like to point out, they removed their $1 trial subscription right before Black Ops 6 dropped, where you could try Game Pass for 2 weeks for like $1. They removed it just like they did last year, right before Call of Duty dropped. So they were like, if you want to play Black Ops 6, you're going to have to pay the full price for Game Pass. You don't get the 2-week trial. You don't get to beat this game in 2 weeks. Like you're paying that full price, which also, by the way, it's gone up like 18%. The Game Pass price has gone up 18% from, you know, what it started as. And now we're at a point where, like you said, you're paying for audio, you're paying for your skins. They've weaponized FOMO, which is, you know, for anyone who doesn't know, fear of missing out. And that's what these games are. They're a huge fear of missing out. You know, you spend more, and I want to be clear, like if that's your game, do you. Absolutely do you, if that's, you know, your favorite game. I just wish more people were vocal, like, hey, this isn't all of us. This isn't what we all want. Not every game needs to be a live service. You know, every game needs to have 15,000 DLCs before it's finally completed, just for you to turn around and tell us, hey, at any given moment, we can pull the game down because you don't own it.
Right. And the thing about the Call of Duty games is each one, since at least Modern Warfare 1, each one has been costing well over $200 to $300 million minimum to make. They're not getting their money back, not through Game Pass. Like if people were legitimately buying the game for, you know, $60, $70, yeah, they'd be getting their money back. But these studios are not benefiting. They're losing out. And it doesn't seem that way when you have a company that is putting all of these studios that they bought out under one umbrella and saying, here's a subscription-based service. We're seeing it with Netflix. It's the same thing that happened with Netflix, right? They started putting out all these movies. And then what happened? Every single year, the price goes up. And
right now, they're on the verge of cutting a lot of deals.
Yeah, what we're not going to get is sequels to good games either.
Yeah.
Because the focus is going to be the live service games.
Yeah. Live service gaming is
lying and fooling to people to get them to buy skins and microtransactions and subscription services is the peak of just grossness in this industry right now. And that's what's making the industry money.
What happened was, and I know this is
Not
going to
good
sound
games
unfair,
anymore.
but this is the equivalent of every hobby, in my personal opinion. What went wrong is gaming became a trend. It became popular. And because it became a popular trend, they shifted who they were targeting in the market. When they were targeting avid gamers, hardcore gamers, it stayed niche. Yes, it isolated casual gamers because your average person works a 9 to 5. They come in, they sit down, they play Call of Duty, they play Fortnite with their kids. They play maybe like 8 hours a week. That's their gaming. And now the market is targeting them more than anyone else because who's in that group? Parents, children. What are children good at doing? Convincing their parents to spend money.
Not me. I guess I'm not. Are my kids dumb? Are they bad negotiators? Look at my face. My 10-year-old's like, can I have Call of Duty? And like, I love gaming. And I'm like, why would I buy you Call of Duty? I mean, I say it like that, but like, why are you buying a game that's like immature for a 10-year-old? What is wrong with you?
Because the game became the babysitter.
Yeah.
The game
like,
became the babysitter.
We play other games together. Like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And the same thing has happened with anime and gaming ever since like kind of like post-COVID, during and post-COVID. And I, for a good while, and I think a lot of people would agree, like, I thought it was really cool that like the things that were very niche and not very cool growing up, but now it's cool. Now it's getting love. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, heck yeah. Oh, well, I can just go to Crunchyroll now and watch anime. I don't have to like,
You don't gotta hide it.
like, I mean, yeah, I don't have to like go to the store and like hope they have what I have, or like hope I find the next volume of the manga that I want to read. I mean, now there's comic book stores, easy to find. Mangas are in bookstores, easy day. You can easily go online and buy them. There's such a multitude of ways to watch anime or play a game on all these different platforms. I like the idea of digital for a while, all this different stuff, but it's kind of like you said, it became like a popularity thing, and then a lot of people came in and they took something that was like had a certain level of enjoyment for a lot of people, and that people it held like a special place to them, and they came in and they said, hey, we don't like the way you're doing it, we don't like the way you're being a nerd, so we're gonna change it, and then we're gonna complain that you're being a nerd the wrong way, and we're gonna make it look a certain way, we're gonna make these changes. And we see it in Marvel, we see it in Disney, we see it in Hollywood, we see it in gaming now, we see it, now we got people complaining about anime. They watch anime and they're like, that's a horrible scene. I'm like, don't fucking watch it then. Like, what? Yep. Like, what? No one asked you. Where were you at 15, 20 years ago, again, when gaming was fun? Like, where were you at?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't understand. Well, there's only 3 episodes. It doesn't make sense. Well, if you wait, like, I don't know, a couple months and watch it, or if you go get a subscription to Shonen Jump or go buy the manga and support the artist instead of just the studio, you'll get your information. But don't, what?
And this is my final thought on it, because we're actually going to touch on that more in depth in the next episode. So if you guys want, make sure you tune in next week, because we're going to dive into that. But my final thought, revolving around gaming with that same mentality, are the people who will play, especially heftier games, more completed games, like Elden Ring, Metaphor, any JRPG, and then go to Reddit and complain when they're completely lost and confused, or in the case of Shadow of the Erdtree, when they wound up against the Gank Squad by themselves, and they were like, why is this happening? Why is this? And then people would say, did you do any side quests? And they're like, and they'll come in like, no, I didn't care about any of those people. Why did I have to do that? And they're like, well, that's part of the story. That would have explained. You would have seen it coming.
They would have gone further if they could have bought a few skins for their character.
Yeah, because it wasn't something they could buy to skip, and because it wasn't put in front of their face on a silver platter, which is funny because that's the other argument. For years, gamers were complaining, oh my gosh, can developers stop painting yellow on places we can climb? Can we just figure it out? And then turn around, and as soon as the game doesn't paint it and put it in your face, oh my gosh, why do I have to go figure it out? Why isn't it in front of my face? Which one is it? Do you want it handed to you, or do you want to earn it? Because you're sending mixed signals right now, and it's really confusing.
Yeah, I think figuring stuff out in the game, as frustrating as it can be sometimes, it's part of it's rewarding, and it's part of the fun.
I like to look at figuring things out in a game as critical thinking. It's good for your critical thinking skills, helps you think outside of the box.
Well, and that's I was talking earlier about a lot of psychologists and studies and data with gaming over the past decade. And actually, that's something that gets touched on a lot. Is it builds your cognitive and critical thinking skills. And there's not a lot of data to prove anything here. There's no like proof, right? But there's some data suggesting that all of this work, like the same way you people can do like puzzles and crossword puzzles and like stuff to like use your brain and figure things out, word searches, stuff like that, Sudoku, to ward off the breakdown of certain parts of your brain that can possibly lead to things like dementia and Alzheimer's. It is believed that with some of the data so far that video games serve a very similar purpose. Again, I am not telling anyone this is a scientific fact for 100%. It's just stuff that's being looked at that seems promising and holds promise. And I think that those kind of studies are really cool. I'm glad they're getting done because gaming can be very beneficial. And there's a lot of data so far to back it up in different ways.
Yeah. The GG Chop Shop is just putting out the hypotheticals. We are not officiating saying that this is backed by 100% factually backed by science.
But I'm something of a scientist myself.
He is though. He is. But if you guys got some numbers and some statistics you want to add to the show, almost couldn't say the word statistics for a second there. Let us know. Hit us up on our website. That's all the time we have for this episode. It's probably going to be a two-parter, so make sure you tune in next week for the second part of this episode. Anyway, make sure you guys check out our website, ggchopshoppodcast.com. Visit our store. We've got new merch coming out. Fall lineup is officially here, so you guys do not want to miss it. These are limited items. They are not going to be around long, so make sure to go check out the store before they are gone. And if you haven't already, sign up for our newsletter, which we have actually already launched our first issue. So if you want to catch the issue for this month, make sure to go to our website and sign up. You are not going to want to miss it. It's chock full of amazing information, links to some of your favorite stores, and so much more. Anyway, that's all the time we've got. Take care of yourself and each other. We'll catch all of you wonderful people on the next podcast. Later.